Well, there's additional breaking news about Donald Trump's global tariffs and the ensuing trade war. As both his overall and economic approval ratings continue to plummet, Trump has, for the second time in 1 week, blinked, caved, folded, retreated on a major aspect about this trade war, even though he and his top advisors have insisted for weeks and months that no such thing would occur. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we had a couple of clips to look at here. Donald Trump is once again caving as conditions manifest themselves in ways that he apparently didn't anticipate, even though they were patently obvious to virtually every economist of every political persuasion. He's once again walking back on a major promise. We're going to play two clips here, one of Trump and a more recent one from a top Trump trade advisor, and then we'll get into how they contradict themselves.
Reciprocal tariffs, those two words. Reciprocal makes tariffs really fair.
There'd be no exemptions, right? It would be all auto imports?
Any exemptions, no, because you don't need to. With reciprocal, you don't need to.
That's Trump saying no exemptions. No exemptions for my tariffs. We're not going to make any carve-outs. We're not going to have any sorts of exclusions whatsoever. And if that wasn't bad enough, when Jamison Greer, Donald Trump's trade representative, testified before Congress about this, he reaffirmed just a few days ago that notion.
Senator, the president has been clear with me and with others that he does not intend to have exclusions and exemptions, especially given the nature of the action. If you have Swiss cheese in the action, it can undermine the overall point, which is to get rid of the deficit, achieve reciprocity.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. I mean, this whole trade war thing is disastrous in the first place, but I mean, if you say so, if you say that there are going to be no exemptions, that there's going to be consistency, anything else would be Swiss cheese and undermine the entire point of the tariff. Well, I guess that's that. Okay. Except, oh, wait, there is Swiss cheese. He just handed us a big plate of Swiss cheese. As Washington Post and the New York Times and every media outlet is reporting, phones and other electronics are now exempt from new tariffs, the Trump administration says. The announcement comes after Beijing responded to Trump's escalating trade war with a 125% tariffs on all U.S. goods early Friday. The Trump administration announced late Friday night that smartphones, computers, and other electronic components are exempt from what the White House calls reciprocal tariffs, days after the U.S. imposed the highest levies on foreign goods in a century. We'll come back to that, but just want to note some other things. Representative Don Bayer, a Democrat, says Trump is exempting smartphones and chips 4 days after his trade advisor testified there would be, quote, no exemptions in the near term. We just played that clip. But they still aren't exempting things like we cannot produce at scale in America, like bananas, cocoa, and coffee. Make it make sense. You can't. Yeah, even the Washington Post, right, this the conservative sister publication of Fox News, they also didn't buy Trump's bullshit notion that there would be no exemptions. They didn't buy it for a second. They recognized in advance that Trump was lying. And so Abby Phillip on CNN is actually reading an excerpt from the Washington Post in which they predicted this retreat, this walkback, this cave, this defeat.
They say that this is actually also opening the door to corruption. Mr. Trump is saying that there will be no tariff exemptions, but watch that promise vanish as politicians, including Mr. Trump, see exemptions as a way to leverage campaign contributions from businesses. Liberation Day is buy another yacht day for the swamp.
That's from the Wall Street Journal, right? So not only did they predict that there would be exemptions, but there would be exemptions for corrupt purposes from Donald Trump. Again, stunning admission from one of the most reputable conservative outlets, which is relatively pro-Trump. I mean, certainly compared to the Democrats, but they're admitting that it's all about grift and graft and flagrant corruption in the Trump White House. Stunning admission. The dissonance is astounding. So, the directive issued by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection lists nearly 24 exemptions, including chips, flash drives, and TV displays. The announcement comes after Beijing responded to Trump's escalating trade war with a 125% tariff on all U.S. goods early Friday. Quote, if the U.S. insists on substantively damaging China's interests, China will firmly retaliate and fight to the end, China's State Council said in a statement. For makers of electronics, particularly Apple, the break on tariffs is likely to be a huge relief. Apple has faced the prospect of a new import tax of roughly $700 or more on each $1,000 iPhone imported from China based on the tariff rates the White House has increased to at least 145%. At least for now, Apple won't have to decide whether to take a hit to its profits or possibly raise prices significantly for iPhone buyers. The exemption for Chinese-made phones and laptops may also raise questions about why some U.S. businesses were singled out for tariff breaks, and others like apparel and furniture retailers must still pay a whopping tariff rate on Chinese-made goods. Apple did not have an immediate comment. The Consumer Technology Association, a trade group whose members include Apple, Lenovo, and Samsung, also had no immediate comment. The exemptions appear to undermine Trump's economic revolution that seeks to move high-tech supply chains and parts suppliers inside the U.S. and to employ American workers. Last weekend, Howard Lutnick, which is Trump's ridiculous, this dude, I mean, he's getting shit left, right, and center, even from Republicans and right-wing outlets because he's such a clown, but he's Trump's Commerce Secretary. Anyway, the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, told CBS News that, quote, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make the iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. So, once again, Donald Trump is backing down on a major, major commitment that he made, which is that there would be no exemptions, because to do otherwise would be to create Swiss cheese. And I want to take some time here to, again, discuss this, because I've been seeing some of it's been directed at me. I've seen it be directed at other, commentators, liberal and progressive commentators from MAGA, where they say, oh, so you oppose the tariffs, and then when Trump backs down on the tariffs, you mock him for it, as if there's some sort of like mutual exclusivity here. Well, no, right? It's actually pretty consistent. On the one hand, these tariffs, these sweeping, ridiculous tariffs against our top trading partners, and certainly the rest of the planet, were inherently a bad idea, because we defer to the economic experts, not just liberal or progressive economists, but conservative economists, pro-Trump economists even, the vast consensus of which is tariffs of this nature and this scope and this scale are a bad idea. We agree with that. My position on that has not changed. I'm consistent there. Trump defied the consensus and recklessly, stupidly, foolhardily pursued this global trade war, despite all the abundance, the wealth of evidence to the contrary. Mocking him for backing down after he swore he wouldn't do so does not contradict the first sentiment at all. I'm glad Trump caved. I'm glad Trump is making exemptions here, but I'm perfectly entitled, as are others, to mock him for it, because he said he wouldn't do it, because he said he knew better. Again, if an adult human shits in the floor for no reason, it's not that they're incontinent. They choose to shit in the kitchen, on the kitchen floor. They chose to. They announced they would in advance. Everybody says, no, there's a bathroom right there. You don't need to do this. This is a bad idea. And they deliberately choose to shit in the floor anyway. And then they insist they won't clean it up under any circumstances. And then they start to reach for a paper towel to clean some of it up. It's okay to make fun of them. It'd be different if they're incontinent. It'd be different if they had no other choice. Trump had a choice not to do this really stupid thing. And I'm not going to give him credit, nor is anyone else obligated to give him credit for, retreating on with the 90-day pause just a few days ago, something he insisted he wouldn't do, and for making these exemptions here. He doesn't get a gold star for that. It's actually really weird and stupid and irrational that people want to give him a gold star for that. That's insane. Why do that? It makes no sense whatsoever, unless, of course, you're part of the Trump cult and you have to justify everything Trump does as a demonstration of, commercial or business savvy or genius. I'm under no such illusions. I don't have that obligation. I'm not part of the cult. But no, there's no contradiction here whatsoever. It is perfectly consistent to mock these tariffs, to disagree with these tariffs, and to mock Trump for walking back on so many crucial aspects of the tariff war after he insisted he wouldn't do so. Maybe he should just do the right and smart thing the first time and not stupidly and recklessly and obstinately do the wrong thing despite all the reason not to. Maybe that's what he should do. Maybe he should not shit in the kitchen floor in the first place. Maybe the burden's on him. But there you have it. Another breaking news update. Donald Trump making a colossal exemption in the global trade war after insisting that he wouldn't do so. By the way, making Jameson, Greer, and others look like total idiots, undermining their credibility. Why even have them testify? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Your opinion's irrelevant. Trump clearly doesn't trust you or value you. You're not included in any of these talks. He runs roughshod over you. You're just window dressing. So the whole thing is a disaster, but it's classic Trump. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.